In the tree cutting world, we oftentimes work with these plastic wedges, but do you know how to use them and where they can be useful? Let's go talk about that.
This is Chainsaw Safety with Clemson University, and I am your training instructor, Patrick Easel. And today we are going to learn about using wedges.
Wedges are a great tool to have. We oftentimes use them with tree felling, but wedges often come in very handy when you have logs that are already on the ground or suspended and you're not quite sure where the tension and compression will go. This is something that I like to do very often when I work with big trees. So when I have storm damage and I'm working out like oak trees that are like 20 inches or larger in diameter, a wedge comes in very handy because I start making my cut from the top, start working my way about 6-7 inches down, put a wedge on top of my saw, basically into that saw curve that I created, hammer it tight a little bit so that it's nice and snug, and then continue finishing my cut. And my saw curve will never collapse, it will never pinch my saw. But keep in mind that this is something that you would more often use with larger diameter logs, something that's more like 16 inches and larger, where you're not quite sure where tension or compression is, or if you know that you just cannot work from the tension side because the tension side is on the underside of a log that's sitting on the ground. All right, we have used the wedges now to do a cut on this suspended log. Typically, we would not use a wedge on a suspended log like this because it was very obvious that the piece we were cutting off was all going to fall off on its own. Hence the reason why we did not cut all the way through, because as the saw curve opens up, your wedge will start sliding down, which is actually a very nice indicator that you're cutting on the tension side and that you may no longer need a wedge. But if you're unsure at the beginning of the cut, it's always a good call to have a wedge in your cut to avoid getting your saw pinched. The other cut that we have done was on a log that's sitting on the ground, and you may have seen that we did not cut all the way through because the log is sitting on the ground. You can only cut so close to the ground before you start cutting into the ground, and then you dull chainsaw. So at this point, the piece that you're cutting off is probably loose enough that you can come in maybe with a larger wedge to break that piece off, or maybe you have a mechanism to turn that log now and make a final cut on the other side to get that piece that you're cutting off safely off the remainder of the log. There's many different reasons, many different scenarios out there. Just know that you have a wedge that's available for purchase, and it can be a really good resource for you in making many different cuts out in the woods to prevent your saw from getting pinched.